Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me take care of the. There we go. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Down in the Valley, brought to you by. There we go. I couldn't see myself on screen. Wow, that sounded very conceited. Anyways, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Down in the Valley, brought to you by the Beautiful Game Network, Natural Beauty Spa, Icarus FC, and Roughneck Scarves. It's game day, guys. I don't know how hyped up you are, but it's another day, another match where we go against the bad guys up off 281. It's been a difficult week. Look, it's been a difficult week for the players. It's been a difficult week for coach. You played San Antonio at home on last Sunday. You go to Oklahoma City on Wednesday. Now you come back today, Saturday, and play against San Antonio once again away. And meanwhile, you've got the Rio Grande Valley starting to get hammered by Hurricane Hannah, which you can see. There we go. Down there, up in the lower left-hand corner, you will see the live radar of Hurricane Hannah. But just wanted to add that since I do love weather, especially storms like this. But anyways, going back into topic, I do want to thank you all for tuning in. Like always, the chat will be available for y'all to give y'all's takes on the games. If you guys want, just let us know if you have anything you guys want to discuss. We are going to be talking about all three games today. Hopefully, we can actually, while we're still live, we can get the lineups from the USL for this upcoming match. But to talk, like always, like almost every week, we've got Ray Silva of South Texas Border Sports hopping on to discuss this and all RGVFC topics that have occurred in this past week since we've last been live last Wednesday. Ray, how have you been? How is Hurricane Hannah treating you?
It's treating me well. I'm here in the friendly confines of my own man room, based on the decorations I have here. It's been going well. Haven't been going out too much since last Wednesday when I just went to go run a few errands, but it's been all good for me. Hoping to break down another edition of the South Texas Derby.
And boy, did that first edition of 2020 have a lot of for us to talk about. Let's go ahead and get started with that. So, coming into this match, the day of that Sunday, I was invited to the pregame show with the San Antonio Soccer Roundtable program with Harry and Rafa and Scott, really fine people. But they invited me over to the show. I was the only RGV representative surrounded by San Antonio fans. And one of the keys to the game that I talked about on the show, because they asked me, well, what are the strengths that RGVFC have going into this match that'll maybe get them the win? One of the things I mentioned was that San Antonio was coming into this match with no match fitness whatsoever. This would be their first game back from the break. They didn't do any friendly training. It was just inter-squad training, right? And that's not the same as an actual official match, right? So I said, look, San Antonio is going to get tired by the second half because we saw that from RGV. RGV against El Paso, they got tired really quick at the second half where they couldn't do anything at all. Look, and I figured that San Antonio was gonna be going through the same thing. Nobody believed me. They all thought, they were all a bunch of homers. Nah, just kidding, Harry. But no, they didn't. They didn't really believe me in the fact that that would happen. And lo and behold, I just spilled water on myself. Thank you. Lo and behold, that happened exactly. But Ray, what were your thoughts going into that match? What were your thoughts on both teams?
Uh, First, I'll start off with the visiting team, San Antonio. You know, I thought I would see a very rusty San Antonio bunch where this was their first game. Uh, Besides, like all the inter squads that they had amongst each others, while RGV had to wait another 48 hours. So that may have given a bit of an advantage to San Antonio going in. However, I do want to say that the first 5 minutes of the match really caught me off guard with that goal. Now, it's been a defensive problem for RGVFC every time they have to play the long ball, and especially having to cover that defensively. So, was it a surprise that San Antonio went up that early? Yes, it was, because San Antonio came out just playing with a lot of high energy that drastically tailed off into the second half. Now, with RGVFC, how were they going to control themselves emotionally after letting in 5 goals in their home opener versus Los Dos? That didn't carry very well into the first 5 minutes of the match as they conceded that early goal to Pirano. Now, in the second half, when Coach Etcheverry made the substitutions, then that's when you started to see a little bit of a turnaround on the team. Uh, Kibato wasn't letting it. I felt like he seemed a bit suspect in the defensive mid. Once Isidro came in and changed things around, you kind of saw Isidro kind of take over that midfield, and it started generating opportunities. He got himself a set piece chance that hit the post. Uh, Taiberson, as I stated earlier, not as I stated in other podcasts, Taiberson was going to be a lot more damaging in the wings, and sure enough, he created a lot of off, offensive havoc for the San Antonio defense. And then when coach decided to bring in uh, Beckford and Obregon, you kind of saw a different face on this team. So for the Toros to have gotten an equalizer, it was kind of a little bit of an unfair result because of the opportunities that Taiberson had. That game easily could have been a 3-1 game with the Taiberson hat trick, but 1-1 was a result. And hey, you just gotta, sometimes just take it for what you've had, based on the circumstances that the team faced as well.
Let's focus first on the first half, and I think you brought up a good point regarding Kembo Kibato. But I do want to emphasize this player more on the negative side. James Murphy,
Okay.
who I believe, if I recall correctly, he started over Cello or Timo.
Hmm.
To me, James Murphy. Well, in general, the Toros team, um, especially in the midfield, they got tired of losing balls in the midfield and transition to San Antonio. And kudos to San Antonio for having that high pressure on the Toros midfield, just looking to pounce on that effort to create a mistake, to force the Toros midfielders to put that ball in an easy location for the defenders to swoop that ball up and just continue on the attack. Um, I feel like that goal with Pirano in the 3rd minute. I mean, nobody was expecting a goal that quick, but and I mentioned it during halftime, I know I went live on Twitter during halftime, and I mentioned that it seems to me that this is a system issue. This is an organizational issue because we saw it with Houston Dynamo at the MLS's back tournament that they had the same issues with long balls up in the air. And once again, now with RGV, it happened. You know, looking to go over the midfield. The problem really wasn't the center backs because Solignac, I hope I said that correctly, but Solignac just was able to pounce on that ball quicker than Robert Castellanos, if I recall correctly. He beats Robert. Yeah, that's where I'm heading at, right? So Solignac gets to the ball before Castellanos. The ball lands on Christian. Well, the ball lands towards the area where Pirano and Coronado are at. Pirano gets to that ball first before Coronado, and Robert Coronado tries to push him, tries to make Pirano lose his balance. I guessing he wanted to sacrifice himself, maybe get a yellow, could have been a red, maybe, I don't know. I don't think he was last man if I recall correctly, but he was going towards goal, but he was heading out, so I don't believe that would have been counted as a what's the term that they use?
An assist?
No. I'm talking about like you know how they say it, where it's an opportunity on goal.
1-on-1, clear chance.
Anyway, there's a specific term, dogso, I think it's what it's called. Denial of goal scoring opportunity. There it is. So since he was heading out, I don't think it would have counted as dogso, but he wanted to stop Pirano as best as he could. But Pirano, holy smokes, like that, the talent of that kid to maintain his balance, maintain his composure, and slot that ball underneath Paul Blanchet's legs as he was coming out. That guy, the kid's got talent. You have, as a Toros fan, you have to accept it. The kid has got talent. And San Antonio just continued to exert pressure, create those mistakes on the midfield. And, you know, we looked at it and it was like really, like, we can't, you know, go against a team that is we knew coming into the match, Harry told us during the week that San Antonio was going to play high pressure on the Toros. And that's exactly what they did. But somehow, neither James Murphy nor Kembo Kibato were able to identify a way to bypass that pressure. And they just kept losing ball after ball after ball. It was, I don't know about you guys, but it was frustrating to see these Toros being completely overrun in the first half.
Yes, James Murphy was the other midfielder that started alongside Kibato. Just looking at my halftime stat sheet that was emailed to me. Thanks, Ronnie. Uh, you see, just looking at the formation here, which shows a basic 4-4-2 with Kibato and Murphy playing in the midfield. Once the substitutes were made, I kind of felt a little bit more comfortable with Isidro holding down the midfield, which was a kind of a good sign when the team started, producing more opportunities aside from the Taiberson hitting the post and having a few other chances. Now, if you look at the second half, you kind of saw a little bit of a different team after the subs. Wouldn't you agree with me?
Yes. I think so. Starting with Chelo, I think when Chelo was subbed in, there was a lot more control in the midfield. Obviously, you gotta have to pair it. We have to be honest. We have to pair it with the fact that San Antonio was getting tired. You know, they were because they were tired. They started to kind of fall back. They started to just focus on parking the bus, because in the second half their legs were too tired to create any more opportunities, and that's because they took out Chewy to bring in another player that had fresher legs. I think it was at halftime when they made that substitution.
Yep.
But the point of the matter is, you see right there just how one official match can be such a huge difference fitness-wise. And that's because, like Coach Echeverry said, they only had 1 day to actually practice with the whole positive test happening, having to drive back from El Paso, and then having to recuperate from that long trip. They only had 1 day, and not at the stadium. They did not practice at the stadium, so they couldn't get used to the fact that the pitch, let's be honest, was not in the best of shapes. So even with all of this against them, just that one 90-minute match against El Paso helped them a lot fitness-wise compared to San Antonio, and I think that was the biggest key in them being able to get the results. We were close, like I said, we were close to actually scoring some more goals. The post was kind of against us throughout the match, but let's be honest, I was not happy with the equalizer. You cannot drop points at home. I'm just leaving it out there because because I know there's going to be some people who are saying, well, he's excusing the results with all of these factors that no, I'm not. And I said it even right after the game. I'm not happy with us dropping 2 points at home. And heck, I wasn't even happy the way we dropped 2 points in OKC, which we'll talk about later. Because at this point, we are almost a third of the way into the tournament, and we only have 2 points. While San Antonio have, they have two games on hand on everybody else. And OKC has 4 points. Tulsa has 3, if I'm not mistaken. But
the good thing about this schedule setup, Edson, is that everyone's going to get that heavy congestion. We've already gotten ours out of the way, so this is kind of a good thing that the gauntlet part of the schedule came heavy and early. So that's kind of a good thing.
I guess you can say that. But, the point I was trying to make is there was still a lot of mistakes that were happening that were alleviated in the second half. And another one of the points that I brought up in that pregame show, that San Antonio pregame show that I was invited to, was be on the lookout when Coach Echeverry subs in Juan Carlos Obregon and Deshane Beckford. You bring those 2 speedy players, you bring those 2 quick, talented players into the field against a tired team, they're going to cause destruction on you. And that's exactly what happened, especially in stoppage time, where we had, I believe, 6 shots on target in those 6 minutes right there.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw that. And I asked Coach Echeverry, well, what's the difference in your analysis, what's the difference between having Garrett Mclaughlin and Luca Perpa up on top compared to having Deshane Beckford and Juan Carlos Obregon? He just summed it up with the word athleticism. They're very athletic, they're very quick, they're very nimble, and that caused a lot of disorganization on the San Antonio defense. Sure, they were able to clear some balls out of the line, whether it was St. Clair or Kai Green or anyone in the defense. But the fact that the Toros were putting themselves in those goal-scoring opportunities shows that there is a lot of potential in this Toros attack. But the question is, you need to put that ball away. You need to be more accurate when you have those goal-scoring opportunities. You can't just rely on putting in one, because just like we said in seasons before, this defense might be good for 80 plus minutes, but they always have had one mistake in the last couple of minutes, like 85 and beyond, and we lose the lead. And that's exactly what the announcers, I think they said it against San Antonio, but I know for sure they said it against OKC. They said one of the things about this RGV team is that they play good, but they don't know how to extend that performance to the full 90 minutes. So they've lost a lot of points because in those last couple of minutes because of that. They can't hold on to a lead, right? At this point, we're able to salvage a point coming in from behind, but we could have been a whole lot more accurate with their shots and slotting that ball in. That's the biggest thing. Now I really don't have a solution. I don't think anybody has a solution to how to get these players to slot the ball in other than more practice, and making sure that these players have enough mental capacity to, once they have an opportunity, they have the timing to make the correct decision, whether to pass it, whether to dribble one more player, or to just shoot it right there. Because a lot of times also, and we saw it a lot with the Dynamo, we see it a lot with the Dash, we've seen it with RGV. Sometimes they take one extra touch that for an opportunity that could have been a goal scoring opportunity, they take that one extra touch, and here comes the defender, kind of takes it away, kind of thing. So that's one of the things that needs to be improved on. There has been some improvement. Like I said, defensive wise, huge improvement over game number 1. I'm not lying. Pablo and Chet under the pipes, huge improvement over the first game. Before these matches of this weekend, Pablo and Chet was leading the league in saves with 15. Considering the fact that in game number 1 he had 0 saves, in El Paso and San Antonio, and then in 3 games he's had 15 saves. Now you might say, well, that's because the defense is kind of a little bit porous in the fact that they're allowing the opposition to score or to have opportunities on goal. But let's be honest. You look at Castellanos and his stats, and let me see. I don't know if you have them, Ray, but I feel like Castellanos and Manley have had a decent amount of clearances as well in their game stats.
Yes, I can concur with Coronado having just a little bit more, because he's been the heart and soul of that defense. Now Castellanos is another who has been balling out, as they say. He had a very good man of the match performance, worthy for the Toros against San Antonio. He got heavily involved in a lot of the plays that San Antonio were able to produce attacks, and that the team, or that the defense, was able to clear out throughout the first half. So let's give credit where credit is due uh, for the team. Now, if you look at how they performed against San Antonio, first half, second half, yes, I would agree that defensively, I would probably be uh, more. Um, how would you? They, Coronado and Castellanos were a little bit more precise. Carter Manley, who was still not officially listed on the USL Championship roster for the stat purposes of the San Antonio game, uh, I tell you what, I felt like he's given that back line a little bit of morale boost, and a shot of confidence, because coaches can only do so much. But if you bring in veteran players like Carter Manley, who have been there before in the MLS stage, who have played in the USL Championship and League One, hey, that's a guy that you can look up to in order to kind of improve your game, and that's where I give credit to Carter Manley on that.
And you see and you hear all of that the way he expresses himself at the press conferences. You see that maturity where he knows he's in a position to teach, not only to learn but to also teach guys like Castellanos, Coronado, Emil Legol, and help them improve in the search of going back into MLS. And we're seeing that with Carter Manley, like you said, the defense is a lot more organized than it has been before. And can you imagine having him and Kyle Adams as the center back pairing? No diss to Castellanos. I would right now at this point I would rather have Castellanos over Kyle Adams. But imagine a Kyle Adams in his prime and when he with the Toros with Carter Manley.
Look, just to give you a perspective of Castellanos' level of play right now throughout these first few games.
Bring it.
41 clearances, 29 duels, 15 of them won. Okay? And then aerial duels, 18, 10 of them won. I mean, Castellanos has been playing a little bit of lights out defense for the Toros. Carter Manley, in his few games as a Toros, 14 clearances, 6 interceptions, 5 tackles, 3 of them won, 23 defensive duels, 13 wins, and he has 1 aerial duel won compared to his 4 attempts.
Mm-hmm.
And then last but not least, Coronado. This number's a bit misleading for me. 11 clearances, 9 tackles challenged, 9 of them won. So he has a clean slate there. 25 duels, 13 of them won. Okay. And then if you look at the next guy down that line, Emile Legault, 5 clearances, 9 challenging tackles, 6 of them won, 35 defensive duels. The number that surprises me here, only 16 of them won. I just feel like the back unit that's been used for these last few games, I think that this coming game against San Antonio, it's going to be rather important to just keep it simple defensively. Not to go up and attack, but just try to keep everything level, make Blanchettes work, have an easy night. And then who's the next highest with the clearances on the team? Blanchette himself.
Yeah, I think one of the abilities or characteristics of Paul Blanchette has been that he is not afraid to go out and intercept balls up in the air. That game against OKC, that goal, I feel like he could have gone out and tried to clear that cross that got to Emile Legault's area. That what's his name is Frank Lopez. Slotted that in. But other than that, he's looked solid. He had a couple of saves against OKC. He had a couple of saves against San Antonio. And that's exactly how you shut people like me up. Prove me wrong. I was talking a lot of smack after, well, not smack, but I was kind of criticizing his performance against Los Dos. And he's shutting me up. The fact that he leads the league in saves shows something. Shows that he actually does have potential. And that game against Los Dos was just a fluke.
I have always been a fan of Emile Legault's game, only because of his past experiences in Europe, and I'm glad he's getting his opportunity here with the Toros to show his game, and I'm mightily impressed. That's something that I've told you off the air, and I've told Jacob Young off the air, but give the kid some time and he'll impress you somewhat. And so far, he's lived up to my hype so far.
And I think the fact that right after that goal, again, with Parano, Parano he didn't have as clear as opportunities other than that goal. So I think they might have an opportunity. They might have the ability to be able to stop Pirano from doing a lot of damage tonight. Offensively, like I said, Taiberson, the fact that he is not afraid to shoot from outside the box, which is something that we've been wanting for a long time. I think the last player that you can say who was not afraid of shooting from far away, who would it be? Jorginho James?
Eric Bird.
The Birdman. The Birdman. But he wasn't really that. But he wasn't really that consistent with that. He was more. I guess he was more of a distributor kind of guy. But the fact that Taiberson has enough confidence in himself for multiple times shooting from outside the box. He had a shot on the post in the first half. In the second half, he had another opportunity that was saved by St. Clair. And then that authentic golazo in the 94th minute to equalize this. And the fact that coach says, oh, yeah, he puts those in practice all the time. Goes that guy, the kid has got, I say kid, but, but the player, Taiberson, has talent in that left foot. And as long as that the other players give him the space, give him the ability to find that opportunity to shoot, he might be a good weapon from here on out in this season.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you that he can be a very dangerous weapon when deployed as a winger for me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you put him in the center of the field, okay, yes, you might still see that same encouragement to shoot from distance, but it's just something that I feel that, for me, I think he's better deployed as a winger.
My biggest question, and not only in the game against San Antonio, but also in the game against OKC, Luca Perpa and Garrett McLaughlin. I'm very underwhelmed by their performances. I don't know if it's because they're not accustomed 100% to the to coach's tactics, to the team's play style, but to me they have not produced as much as I wish they could. Now, coach says, because they asked him about Garrett McLaughlin, and he always, mentions the fact that Garrett McLaughlin is good at creating spaces, is good as going with through the defense. But he says that the fact is that the other players, his teammates, aren't finding him at the correct times. Well, which leads me to believe, wouldn't it be easier to kind of change that one player to kind of finish off the play style of the others than having to adapt everybody else to the style of Garrett McLaughlin? I don't know. This is me thinking out loud. I'm not trying to take over Coach Echeverry's spot or anything like that, but this is just me thinking out loud. And it's like, I feel like with Garrett McLaughlin, like we're still a little bit behind in that adaptation period.
You could be onto something, yes. Now, if you allow me to just not segue into the Oklahoma City match, which was a little bit of a different lineup up front, at least, where you had Lucatello, shock, Beckford starting, and McLaughlin. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the front three that they deployed against San Antonio, which had McLaughlin, Perpa,
Mm-hmm.
and that was for the second straight running game where they had that same deployment of lineup. Okay.
Yeah.
You had Perpa, McLaughlin, and Rodriguez, and Taiberson, because those four like to play up front.
Mm-hmm.
Now, look at the Oklahoma City lineup. You had McLaughlin, Beckford, Lucatello, Edwards. Let that sink in for a moment. Edwards, on one hand, coming back a long layoff. Lucatello, He played against Los Dos the other two games.
Can I just say that
Yes.
I'm not a huge fan of Lucatero. Like ever since since his first stint here at RGV, I'm not a fan of him.
Okay. That's totally independent to your point. Um, Beckford and McLaughlin. So with the first game against San Antonio, o- opportunities that were shots on goal, you had two of them, and both were off target
Hmm.
against San Antonio. You flip it to the game against OKC. Let me get into the OKC game. And surprise, surprise. Thank you. Thank you, Gamecast, for shutting down. Haha. But anyhow, there was a little bit of a discrepancy of how they attacked in the first half versus OKC and San Antonio. OKC, they looked a little bit more livelier. They looked a little bit more connected with a different front four
Hmm.
as compared to uh, San Antonio, where you only had Taiberson being the more productive of the four of the front four. So obviously, we cannot be heavily reliant on Taiberson. But I kind of like what I saw a little bit more with OKC than what I did San Antonio offensively.
Hmm.
So my question to you is: do you continue to freshen up the front four at San Antonio, or do you repeat this? Do you repeat, or do you refreshen up against San Antonio on the road?
I would go with. Um, ooh, good question. I would definitely put Tiberson in, and I might actually go with Deshane on the other side. Oh well, we still need to find out what happened to him after, during the OKC match if he's going to be okay. But playing it safe, I would go with Kevin and Tiberson, and then having Deshane. Oof, what would you put? I don't know because we've seen a. I feel like the team has looked like just looked better with Deshane and Obregon on, right? But
Mm-hmm.
technically, Deshane is a winger. Now I feel like they're trying to use Obregon as a striker to replace Garrett McLaughlin, right? Or
Yes.
or, or am I viewing this wrong? So if anything, I would go with Obregon as the striker, Tiberson on the right, Kevin on the left. The question is here in the middle behind him. Would you go? Who would be that? Who would be that number 10? Because Perpa, I don't know. He's kind of been more off than on these past games since we've come back.
Okay. Uh, just viewing the heat map of the first half against OKC a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
Perpa had one chance at goal. Kyle Edwards had two chances.
Mm-hmm.
Beckford had two chances, of course, one of them that went for score, and then Castellanos that he had produced two chances of his own in the first half.
Mm-hmm. This is against OKC.
This is against OKC. Now, San Antonio, of course, that was the Taiberson ship, because we
Mm,
knew he had both the opportunities for the team.
yeah.
So okay, you're gonna go Taiberson. Okay, I'll give you that. You want to go with Obregon? Okay, I'll give you that. But I will not concede you the the other two. I would rather go again, even if it's for 45 minutes and conditioning purposes. Kyle Edwards. I just feel like you just get that much more depth attacking,
Out on the
attack
left.
out of the left, and just because the depth of our team isn't deep as to where we need it, I would probably have to concede you Kevin Rodriguez. Now, as to how much they'll play, that's to be determined. But I will stick with Tyberson, Beckford, Edwards, and
Obregón, no.
Albergron.
Okay, so you're saying Tiberson on the right,
Rodriguez
Obregón
on
as
the.
the striker, Kyle Edwards behind Obregón, and then
Yep,
Kevin out on the left.
yep.
That sounds good to me.
Just based on what I saw in the first half against Oklahoma.
And I'm guessing based on statistics as well, right?
Yep, yep. Just viewing the pure heat map.
So what is okay? So I kind of said why, like, talking about Garrett McLaughlin and Luca Purpa. But in your eyes, why is this partnership between Purpa and McLaughlin not bearing fruit for us so far?
I guess if we were more of a if this team if this team was built on speed and pace alone, I can see them both fitting in. But I think they're kind of the type of players that I don't want to say uh, that if our team was built like on a hold it back and then play a lot of counter attacks, then I can see where both can fit in.
Hmm.
But uh, I think this team is built on a combination of everything, I just feel like uh, maybe it's just a systematic thing where McLaughlin and Purpa, um, despite that they've had a lot of playing time together as of recently, right before the OKC game, I just feel like I don't want to. Oh man, it hurts me to say this word, but I think our system is a little
Incompatible.
too slow for their style of play for me.
Now we're not saying that they're horrible players. We're
No,
not. They came with good credentials out of college.
exactly. And I
Well,
just feel like the adaptation to the pro game, I don't think they've really latched onto it fully yet.
mhm. One of the things, because
Whereas
yeah, go ahead.
whereas Kyle Edwards, in the brief showings that he's had, the 60 plus minutes that he's had, he's been able to produce and get in and find the targets, you know,
Hmm.
where whereas Purpa and McLaughlin, yes, they gave us a little bit of a sample showing against Los Dos, but it's like against El Paso and against San Antonio here at home, it's like you eliminate those two off their game, and it's like, okay, we're gonna be heavily reliant on Taiberson.
Hmm.
And I felt that's where like opposing defenses have done their homework as eliminating those two and trying to get our other players involved and trying to beat them.
So it's kind of like the dynamo with that Elise dependency that
Hmm.
you're saying we could be having with the Toros with Taiberson.
Yes.
And bringing in I just noticed, hold on, let me get rid of the radar on screen because it changed to something else. There we go. So what you're saying is, like I said, we have a Taiberson dependency, but bringing in other key players like Kyle and maybe even Kevin Rodriguez kind of takes that pressure away from. No, but against San Antonio,
Yeah.
Kevin started. And it was still a Taiberson dependency.
Yes, exactly to my point, because uh, you kind of see sparks of moments where you want to see Kevin Rodriguez take over, and he showed that a little bit against El Paso a little bit. So I kind of
Mm.
feel like that may be something uh, that might be something that I think, like, if the team had a little bit more practice time together, I think that you could kind of see Kevin Rodriguez's evolution of playing up front, trying to get more of McLaughlin and Purple involved.
Mm-hmm.
But Tyberson is just. eh, I've always felt that the Southern American player plays a little bit more. Um, they use a lot more of their fundamentals to their advantage, and that's why I think Tyberson is a little bit more explosive, more creative with his chances. Whereas,
Did I not mention that after the El Paso game,
yep,
where I said that Tyberson, once he gets his groove on, after he shakes off that uneasiness after his injury, you give that ball to that player, and he is going to wreak havoc. Players are not going to be able to take that ball easily away from him. He's able to get past them, and you saw that against San Antonio, and he wanted to do the same thing against OKC. In fact, he had a clear opportunity with a backwards diagonal pass almost right at the end of the game that nobody was able to get to it. Well, Castellanos did, but he couldn't get a good touch on it. And the ball was kind of caught in the middle of the legs by an OKC defender. But you see the explosiveness of Tyberson and his ability to not be afraid of going up against defenders and juke them away, which is something that honestly I do not see from a player like Lucatero.
well, point considering that, okay, Lucatero is one of those players that I guess he's working his way back into rhythm. Um, I I kind of feel like inconclusive about Lucatero's play. I feel like I haven't seen enough Lucatero play to say, okay, this guy is this for me or that for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm inconclusive about Lucatero as of now.
I know for sure I would rather have him on the bench. I mean, as a starter right now, he's
I mean, what
outside
I mean,
because our starters, we already mentioned who our starters should be based on statistics and based on what we've seen when the team plays best. And we've already said it. He's definitely not better than those players. So he should probably be on the bench and continue to improve on in practices. Allow himself to kind of learn and kind of feed off of Tyberson and learn a little bit of his play style if he wants to kind of adapt to that play style or be a little bit more accurate with passing. He wants to be more of a distributor kind of role. I feel like he doesn't have like an identity to what kind of play style he wants to be. And I feel like once he kind of latches on to what he wants to be, if he wants to be a flair kind of player, he wants to be a distributor kind of role, then I feel like once he knows what he wants, then he can focus himself on how to grow. I mean, I've been told a lot of good things about Lucatero in his youth. So when he came into the Toros back in 2017, I expected a lot from him. considering the fact, and I've mentioned it before, that Lucatero back with Junior Gonzalez was placed out on the wing and not necessarily in the middle, where I was told that's where Lucatero kind of thrived in the youth system. I kind of understood, like, okay, he's not being placed in his correct position. I kind of understand why he looked a little bit timid out on the wings, right?
Yes.
But it's been 3 years. You went to Necaxa. You had another year with RGV. Now you're back with RGV. I feel like you've gone through some sort of lapse of mental maturity and kind of figure out what you want to be now that you're in the pro position. Now that you know that, hey, the pros are not the same as the youth system. Maybe he kind of needs to kind of adapt to the pro system. See, like, okay, what worked with me in the youth academy probably doesn't work at the professional level anymore. Or I need to improve on this in order to be a lot more competitive in the professional level. I'm not trying to discard him at all. I feel like he's in the squad. He needs our support. But we also can't kind of brush off the fact that Lucatero has room to improve to help this team when it's time for him to be out on the field. Now, something about Garrett Mclaughlin that I kind of saw in the OKC match, kind of continuing with the analysis of these matches, Garrett Mclaughlin, to me, especially in the second half, considering he might have been tired or anything like that, but I felt like he wasn't really pressuring the defense or the midfield at all. Like, you know how there's the mentality of some coaches where the first defender is your striker, right? And I felt like Garrett Mclaughlin at times was really just going through the motions rather than actually going out there to put pressure on the keeper, put pressure on the center backs, and not allow them to kind of build up upon it. Now, I know the midfield, especially Kembo, who very aggressive. I liked it, except for the fact he kind of got an early yellow. But he was very aggressive in the midfield defensively, and when he was able to get some pressure, especially what made it very apparent was when Charlie Ward came in. Why? We all know the level of play that Charlie Ward has, and being a distributor. They don't call him Clockwork Charlie for no reason. They call him Clockwork Charlie for a reason. The guy knows how to pass balls around. He can get in the upper 90s, and even I know at one game he had 100% passing accuracy. The guy knows how to pass the ball around. But if you noticed, when RGV midfield put pressure on Charlie Ward, he had a lot of missed passes, overshot, undershot, not even going into the direction of a teammate. So you see how effective putting pressure on an offense really can be, and we know that we have the players to do so in the midfield. But sometimes we need also that kind of energy, that kind of from your striker. And to me, like I said, I felt like that's one of the things that I kind of didn't like about Garrett Mclaughlin either in that OKC match. Now, I could be wrong. I could be extremely too. I may be too picky or on the kid. So, but that is my personal observation from what I've seen. Now, the goal against OKC Energy, like I said on Twitter, what's with OKC and throw-ins?
Ask Wilmer. Hashtag Ask Wilmer.
Oh my God, I'm surprised he hasn't blocked you yet or responded to you since you directly tag Wilmer Cabrera.
Well, everyone kind of asked. I just delivered,
But I feel like that goal was just a lack of, going back to what I said in the San Antonio match, the fact that they can't hold on to that. I was going to say confidence, but no, that concentration for the 90 plus minutes. I feel like Lemieux goal kind of lacks. It was kind of lax. Paul Blanchett kind of lax, and he might have been able to intercept that ball as it was coming in. I don't know. But the fact that ball just landed there right in front of Frank Lopez, and he was able to get that that really hard shot on frame, because it hit the crossbar before going in. So technically, it was going on frame. So I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts are on that goal.
I just feel like um when I saw that throw in again, I'm like, please don't include a front flip like the one
What
I
was his
saw at.
name? What was his name?
Regardless, I just didn't want to see a front flip and the ball just being played into the area box. That's all I did not want to see.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I didn't want to see. But instead, he took the straightforward approach, and then the ball just kind of collectively bounced around, found an OKC player back of the net. That kind of frustrated me a little bit because I felt like the team had worked so hard to kind of maintain that clean sheet. It kind of deserved that clean sheet,
Yeah.
but we keep bringing this up like a dead horse. La
And
tragedia.
it's like I mentioned before. It's like this inability to maintain that concentration all 90 plus minutes have cost us a lot of points. And I sincerely hope that we're not lamenting these 2 points come the last match week for Group F or Group D. Sorry, I was thinking Group F of MLS's back tournament.
Oh
That's
Jesus.
another story. Which, anyways,
Yeah.
so now looking forward to this upcoming match against San Antonio. What are your thoughts on this? What are you expecting from both teams for this match?
I'm expecting a little bit more rust from San Antonio only because this is going to be their third game into the season. For us, I might break myself down a little bit here, but this kind of reminds me when I worked for an indoor soccer club in the local area where the team had to play five indoor soccer games in the span of 2 weeks. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and the travel was not friendly at all. Home game to a team from Mexico, followed by a bus trip to Dallas, a day off to travel to El Paso, followed by one off day to travel to California in the northern part, followed by the next day a 12-hour trip to the southern part of California.
Mm-hmm.
That is no fun. And what was the result of all those games? All five losses. But coming
I
back
mean,
to the totals,
let's be honest. The level of play of that team really wasn't that great.
yeah, no, it wasn't. No, it
So
wasn't. But anyhow, um, you know, my biggest concern here is the back line and the rotation. That's my biggest concern.
mm-hmm.
I feel like depth wise, we don't have very much to choose from. And it
Yeah,
is
we don't.
starting to rain here here in far folks. Um anyhow, um the back line really worries me a lot here because you've got Carter Manley, the two Roberts, and the Go, and then you have a new acquisition, Jonathan Jimenez. Jonathan Jimenez got 45 minutes in. He did fairly well.
What did you think of the fact that Robert Coronado and the center back pairing was the Roberts? That
I asked that yesterday to coach, and I was quite shocked with the way both of them played. I mean, Castellanos, like I said, I felt like one of his most professional appearances in a Toro uniform to the date. I feel like if he can give me one more effort like that tonight, we should be okay defensively.
mm-hmm.
But I just feel like when our defenders go up and attack, that's where I kind of start cringing a lot because it just opened. I just feel like our team is too suspect to the other team's counter, and you see San Antonio how they play. They love to pressure high up, and
Hmm.
that's where I kind of fear our defenders might be a little bit suspect to San Antonio.
Hmm.
That said, um, we've already discussed our front four. Now for our back four starting lineup. Oh man, this is really difficult. But I would go Carter Manley on the outside.
Ooh.
I would repeat the two center back pairings of the Roberts and give Jonathan Jimenez another start.
Why would you put Jonathan Jimenez over Emil Legault and having the back line being Emil, Carter, and the Roberts?
I just feel for match minute purposes, I feel like Jimenez has has a little bit more to offer at this point than Legault. However, Legault, um, he's picked up a couple of knocks throughout this stretch of games. Whereas if we can get a healthy 45 out of Legault in the second half, I would be pleased. But that's just me.
Hmm. I think for me, um,
I can see where you're going on this, by the way.
yeah, Emil Legault, Carter Manley, Robert Castellanos, and Robert Coronado. I feel like it's playing it safe. Carter Manley has played well as a center back, paired with Robert Castellanos. I feel like Robert, while he did play well against OKC, I felt him a little bit lost in the center back against OKC. And I feel like one of Robert Coronado's best abilities, the way he grew up playing soccer, his collegiate career, and he's a player that has some abilities to help out on the attack. And the best position to have him at in order to help in the attack is in the outside back, in the left back position. I feel like you're limiting Robert Coronado too much if you have him in a center back position. And with Carter Manley playing well as a center back with all of his experience, like Emil Legault hasn't been doing now. The only thing why I feel like maybe Emil Legault might be subbed in is the fact that he has a yellow already.
A lot of our players are carrying yellows.
Let me see if I can get a list of that.
I mean, I can tell you from OKC, you had Kembo pick up a yellow, Coronado picked up a yellow, and Taiberson picked up a yellow.
Discipline. We have 9 yellow cards so far. Player stats. All right, so this are the players that have yellow cards. Discipline. We've got Duchesne with a yellow, Kemba with a yellow, Luca Purpa with a yellow. The Roberts have a yellow, Taiberson has a yellow, and Emil has 2 yellows.
At this point, do you pull a Mourinho and tell all of your players to get second yellows?
Seems legit.
I'm just kidding.
That was a fun video, though. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Especially being a Madridista, even though I hate Mourinho, but that's besides the point. But I think the only reason why I would probably sub out Emil Legault and have that lineup that you mentioned is the fact that he's got 2 yellows. Now, I'm not sure exactly how yellow card accumulation works right now in the shortened schedule.
I think it applies the same where you get 5 yellows, you sit a match, and you pay a fine. It's still the same.
Okay, so that stays the same. But even then, the fact that Emil has 3 yellows, you're like, I might want to save him.
Which is why I would put Jimenez in his place. You kind of have to play careful with Emil Legault.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that would be. I mean, both lineups make sense in their own respective ways. But I feel it's just a matter of personal preference. Now, the biggest thing is what is coach going to want. Now, against San Antonio, you already went with my lineup with that lineup of Emil, Carter, and the Roberts. So I feel like, and the fact that that lineup that you mentioned was due to rotation purposes against OKC, I feel like his main one is the original one. So I feel like against San Antonio, he's going to go with that. Midfield, it's relatively easy for me. Kembo and Cello.
Why not Timo Milic in case he's available?
He really, mostly because Kembo has the right now he's got the momentum of having played matches. Timo being injured, and the fact that in those matches he's been kind of, I know against El Paso he was kind of sketchy, and then he got injured. So, but I think I want to keep it continuing with Kembo at this moment in the midfield. Kind of go with what you already know. You don't want to give San Antonio, especially against San Antonio, you don't want to give them any advantages to your rival. And if you've already got some sort of chemistry between Cello and Kembo, why not go with it?
Fair to not fair, but I'll concede that.
Why? Explain why you don't agree. Like, why would you put Timo over Kembo?
You need. I mean, right now, I think the first 4 games right now from this newly structured league. I know I've been drilled by you and Jacob on this topic about getting players in and getting the minutes, and the importance of trying to work every single point here.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like the more players that have like more minutes, I think the longer you're gonna be able to stretch some of these players out. And I feel like our defense, not that it's already completely a liability, but because of the amount of depth that we do not have and what's available to our bench, that's like a big, huge question mark.
Mm-hmm.
Midfield, there's people to sub in and out for. Even up front, there's people to sub in and out for, which is why I'm very very cautious as to giving more players opportunities at this point to see exactly who am I going to be able to count on moving forward, because this was the gauntlet of our schedule early, where you had 4 games, 14 days, and you kind of want to see where everyone is at, uh, condition wise,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I kind of feel like this Derby game, I you might want to play a little bit more conservative, thinking that okay, this team doesn't have very many games under the belt, and offensively, in case our players can't respond, well, guess what? We'll have speed and depth to kind of pick and choose at our liking to kind of play and try to get the game out in the second half.
San Antonio has just released their starting 11. St. Clair is back on on the goal. Maloney, Yarrow, Gorski, and Taintor and Smith. So it looks like they're going with a 5-man back. PC, Hervo, and Perano, Dorenzo, and Solignac.
Harvo in for Enriquez. That's probably one of the changes that I.
There was a lot of changes. Honestly. Dorenzo.
Yeah, because Harvo came in for Enriquez in the second half.
Yeah, I think so. I think somebody else came in for Enriquez, and then Hervo came in the second, like midway into the second half.
Yeah.
So yeah, a couple of changes by San Antonio for this match. It will be interesting to see exactly how that's gonna work for San Antonio. No word yet on RGV lineups though. So my question to you now is: so we talked about all of this. We're leaving this crunch behind of multiple games during the week. Well, we know now that Houston Dynamo are eliminated from the MLS is Back tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Do you expect after this week to see the return of loanees from the Dynamo to the Toros?
To be honest, with the way the quarantine is up in Houston and down here, oh man, I don't expect it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't expect it. Would I would I be surprised if they send down players? Absolutely not. I would not be surprised to see loanees down here. That's just the way I think of it. I mean, I don't want to open up a whole box in Pandora saying no, 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 no. But just based on what I've seen these last few days, I don't think it will happen. And only because the Dynamo are gonna be faced like a condensed schedule, like the way the Toros are coming back from play. And here's RGVFC's lineup:
Oh, interesting. All right. What is it?
Blanchett between the pipes,
All right.
Carter Manley. Cover your ears at this because I'm shocked as well. Diego Rocha getting a start. Castellanos Coronado, Murphy, Cello, Kevin, Perpa, Taiberson, Obregon.
Hmm.
On the bench, Coulter, Legault, Cabado, your personal favorite, Lucatello, Beckford, Edwards, and McLaughlin.
Where did you get? Did they send it to you or what?
Uh, the match cast or the match center.
For me, it's still not showing up. It's still. Oh, probably at the very bottom, the match day live.
Yep.
Yeah, that's how I saw it last time. Okay. Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So it's nice seeing Diego Rocha get some minutes. I'm not gonna lie, academy product, but I just don't feel like putting him in a in a South Texas Derby is like the right moment. But hey, you're gonna grow somehow. You're gonna have to grow somehow.
This is christening by fire, my friend.
That's what I was just gonna say. Now, Murphy, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced on Murphy, to be honest.
You know, it's like I'll go ahead and repeat myself. You got to get these guys minutes to see exactly what we have. I mean, this is one name that we've not heard of, and if you respond something to me, I'll collapse. But
Mm-hmm.
Victor Garza. Now, I know he doesn't set the world on fire, but I was counting on him, his veteran presence, but after that showing against Los Dos, it was like, okay, like he might have been one of those players to perhaps fill in some of the spots defensively and in the midfield, but
Mm-hmm.
oh boy, I mean, could he be under the microscope a little bit here?
Probably. So just to repeat the lineup for RGVFC: Paul Blanchett on goal, Carter Manley, Robert Castellanos, Diego Rocha, Robert Coronado. You've got Taiberson, Cello, James Murphy, Kevin Rodriguez, Luca Perpa, and Juan Carlos Obregon as the striker. I like the fact we're going to see Juan Carlos Obregon as the striker. Be interested to see how he connects with Luca Perpa. That's going to be interesting to see. That's going to be something to watch in this match.
My only question here uh, is is Rodriguez and Purple playing out on the wings with Taiberson playing behind Obregon? That's
No,
just my only.
I feel like Perp is going to be behind Obregon and Taiberson and Kevin out in the wings. But it kind of leads to the question that Code Awesome just put on the chat, and related to what you said about having to put in these players to see what how they do, right? Getting minutes. So Code Awesome asks, with the new format, how bad would it be if we lose in regards to points and the table?
Like, okay, it would put us in a little bit in a hole only because of the number of games that the team has played so far. But then you gotta also think about Austin, Tulsa, and San Antonio. Those three teams are also gonna have to go through the same gauntlet that we did at one point or another in the season, where each of those teams are gonna have 4 games in a span of 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And how are those guys gonna be able to cope with that when they're playing on a week by week schedule? Now, yes, the Toros may have a, another set of 3 games in the week, but by then the team would have already adjusted to playing like that due to what we've done so far already early in the season. So this game is kind of important to get the 3 because it puts us right at level with the rest of the group in terms of points. It puts us even with 5 with OKC and with identically almost the same amount of games played. So yes, this game is another 6 pointer derby, but they you also got to take into consideration the rest of the group still needs to go through that same type of gauntlet as the Toros have just recently. And now just to go back to the starting lineup real quick. The match day live chalkboard has the Toros playing a 4-5-1 midfield of 5. So you have Carter Manley playing out on the right, the the Roberts playing in the centers, Diego out in the left.
Which I don't think that's going to happen. Sometimes they'll have like the location of the players wrong. At least in the back, it's going to be Carter and Robert out on the outside backs.
Mm, I can see that happening as well, but just watching the match day live chalkboard formation type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Tiberson out on the left. I can probably see Rodriguez out on the right just to start off, and then interchange between the game. I can see Murphy and Martinez being the midfield line ahead of the defenders, and of course Purpa playing behind Obregon. That's just me.
What are your thoughts on the fact that San Antonio is using a 5-man back? Think it'll be
Uh,
defensive or offensive 5-line back?
oh boy.
In other words, to put it in perspective, do you think this is going to be a La Volpista line of 5, kind of more attacking, or do you think
Yep.
this is more of a park of the bus defending kind of line of 5?
Well, they're playing at home. The last home game that they had, they won. I think they're gonna go for it. Considering that the way that that the team condition is in right now, with having three games in 6 days, uh, I think they're gonna want to exploit our fatigueness.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they're gonna have their go, or as Pep Guardiola would say, con línea de cinco y a base de empatitos.
Leonito, Leonito. Pep Guadalupe Croix. Jose
Yeah.
Guadalupe Cruz. So guys, I think that pretty much covers this show. I know it's more than an hour. But gave us enough time to actually get the starting lineups for both teams in this match. I hope you all enjoyed the analysis and the discussion that we've had in this show. If y'all missed any part of the show, be sure to check out this podcast once it's available on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and of course SoundCloud. You can also check it out on the BGN's website at bgn.fm. Just be sure to look for the Rio Grande Valley Toros section within the webpage, and you'll find all of our podcasts there. Also, be sure to follow us on our social media, which will be down there. There we go. So be sure to follow us in the Down in the Valley website. Be sure to also check out our website, ditvpodcast.com, where we'll be putting articles as we see fit, with recaps of matches or anything else that might kind of pop up with RGV Soccer that's RGV Soccer related. You can also follow Ray on Twitter, and of course, and with his project South Texas Border Sports. What is it? SOTX Athletics with an X, right? On
Correct.
Twitter.
Correct.
So be sure to follow him there. He also goes through the to the press conferences, not only during the week but also post game conferences at home. I know I'm usually not able to go during the week because I work. I have my.
We missed you yesterday.
I know. Coach missed me too. But I love the banter we have between me and Coach. It's amazing.
I love the banter. Like every time I get in a banter discussion, I always have to have that dog with the burning scenes. I'm like, yeah, this is fine.
But yeah, I did post some of the segments of that press conference on Twitter, on our Twitter, down in the RGV, at down in the RGV. So make sure to check that out. But as for us, I think that's going to do it for today. Hope y'all are safe. I know with Hurricane Hannah, things are going to get pretty hectic out there. I know that I will be going through the Rio Grande Valley. It might be over McAllen at this point, if I'm not mistaken. So be safe out there. Number one, don't be out on the streets, and if you are, turn around, don't drown. Hope y'all are safe, because we want to see some more. We want to be in touch with you, continue to be in touch with you throughout these weeks as the season progresses. Ray, thank you so much for tuning in almost at the last minute. Definitely really appreciate it. And let's go kick some San Antonio butt.
Thank you, Edson. I appreciate the invite, even though for me it wasn't last second. It was just replacing one piece of equipment with another, and we were ready to go on all cylinders.
So we'll see you guys on the next episode. Take care.
You off?